Can words truly kill? It's a powerful, kind of unsettling question, isn't it? Today, we're taking a deep dive into a case that, well, it forced the legal system to confront that very question head on. This is the tragic story of Conrad Roy and Michelle Carter, two young people whose lives became tangled up through mental health struggles and a really disturbing exchange of text messages. Our mission, really, for this deep dive is to unpack the complexities here. We'll look at their individual stories, how their relationship developed, and the unprecedented legal battle that came after. All to try and understand what happened and, what it means for how we communicate and support each other. Okay, let's unpack this. It's a story that explores this very fine line between influence and culpability, especially when it's about something as, well, intangible as words.
Yeah, and what's striking here is how this case didn't just highlight the devastating impact of mental health issues, which it absolutely did. It also raised these profound, really new questions about personal responsibility and the role of digital communication in a tragedy. The real insight, I think, lies in the unprecedented legal precedent it set. Words as a potential weapon.
Right. And that context about mental health is so vital because both Michelle and Conrad were battling these unseen demons. To really get the gravity of this, we need to understand the struggles they each faced with depression, which is, way more complex than just feeling sad. It's this profound, persistent low that can just warp how you see reality and yourself, making even simple things feel impossible.
Exactly. And it's crucial to remember, clinical depression is a complex illness. It can stem from a mix of biological factors, psychosocial stressors like trauma. What's important here is that it is a treatable condition, and empathy and support for the people around you are just incredibly vital. We should never judge someone for having depression. It's a real illness. It's not a choice.
Absolutely. And both Michelle and Conrad had their own significant battles. Let's start with Michelle Carter. Born in '95, Plainville, Massachusetts. In high school, she was known for being quiet, introverted, often described as kind. But this quietness was deeply tied to her struggles. Not just depression, but also a severe eating disorder, anorexia nervosa.
An anorexia nervosa is a really serious psychiatric disorder.
Yeah.
People with it have this intense, distorted fear of gaining weight, even when they're dangerously underweight. It's incredibly dangerous. It leads to severe malnutrition, other life-threatening health issues. Michelle started battling anorexia very young, maybe 8 or 9, and got intensive treatment for it.
So that gives us a glimpse into Michelle's world. But to fully grasp how this tragedy unfolded, we also need to understand the young man at the center, Conrad Roy III. Born in 1995, too, like Michelle, in New Bedford, Massachusetts. Conrad was, by all accounts, incredibly bright, accomplished, graduated high school with high honors, talented athlete, multiple sports, even got a scholarship offer.
But despite all those outward achievements, Conrad struggled profoundly with social interaction. And though it wasn't formally diagnosed, he battled with what he believed was depression. His parents' separation really affected him, and things that came out later, during the legal stuff, suggested he experienced significant emotional distress from earlier life experiences. He was also remarkably industrious, worked a lot in his family's marine towing business, even earned his marine captain's license at just 18. This contrast, between the visible successes and the hidden struggles is such a key part of his story.
Yeah, it really is. So, given what we know about their individual struggles, how did these two young people, kind of isolated in their own ways, find each other? And what was the deal with their connection? It was pretty unusual. Their story started back in 2012. They met in Florida visiting relatives. Michelle was 15, Conrad 16. It started like a typical teenage thing, I guess. They talked, swapped numbers, became Facebook friends. But their communication quickly moved almost entirely online. Texting, chatting.
Right, and what's fascinating here is despite living only about, 40 miles apart, they rarely met in person, didn't have any photos together, this heavy reliance on digital communication. Maybe it was down to their shared struggles with social anxiety, or just, the way intense online relationships were forming for teens back then. Initially, they didn't share their deeper mental health stuff with each other, but that started to change.
It did. After they'd been sort of together for a while, Conrad opened up to Michelle, said he believed he suffered from depression. He confided that he heard voices telling him he was worthless, that he wasn't good enough, despite everything he'd achieved. It sounds like he carried this deep sense of inadequacy, maybe from his childhood.
And Michelle, drawing from her own experiences with mental health, was initially incredibly supportive. She listened, encouraged him to live, even urged him to see a psychiatrist. She shared her own journey with therapy and medication. She seemed to genuinely want him to get the help she knew could work.
But Conrad resisted. He didn't want to talk about his life with a stranger, didn't want anyone's help. For the next 2 years, he constantly told Michelle he wanted to die. And for those 2 years, she stayed supportive, trying to deter him, offering solutions, encouraging him to find reasons to live. But then, in 2014, something profoundly shifted. Michelle seemingly hit her breaking point. She stopped trying to talk him out of it and instead, incredibly, began to support his desire to die.
This is where the case takes that really chilling turn. It's the pivot point. Michelle adopted this new, disturbing philosophy. She later said something like, "Love is making your boyfriend happy, even if it's wrong." She started actively helping Conrad research methods to commit suicide and shared them with him. There was even this disturbing text exchange. Conrad suggested their relationship was like Romeo and Juliet. Michelle replied, saying she'd be his Juliet. Conrad then texted back, "But you know how that movie ends, right?" Michelle understood he wanted them both to die, but she made it clear she didn't want to die herself. This shift, it just raises incredibly complex questions about influence, mental health, and this digital echo chamber.
That Romeo and Juliet exchange is chilling. It sounds almost like a shared fantasy, but one where Michelle knew she wasn't actually part of the tragic ending. Which brings us to July 12, 2014. The day Conrad ultimately took his life. It was a beautiful summer day. Conrad was with his family, his mom, sisters, having a picnic by the sea. His mother noticed he was constantly in his truck, texting someone, not really engaging. By evening, Conrad seemed agitated, like something was really weighing on him. He asked to borrow his truck, said he was going for ice cream, then maybe a friend's house. He didn't come back that night.
The next morning, July 13th, his mother, Lynn Roy, got more and more concerned. Conrad still wasn't home. Truck was gone. She reported him missing. Police tracked his truck using surveillance cameras to a Kmart parking lot not far from home. Inside, they found Conrad in the driver's seat, unresponsive. Despite efforts to revive him, it was too late. The autopsy later confirmed he died from carbon monoxide poisoning. It also came out that Conrad had attempted suicide once before by overdosing.
After his death, a letter from Conrad to Michelle was found, thanking her for her constant support. Michelle's initial public reaction seemed to be one of, well, profound grief. She texted Conrad's family, expressed her sorrow, claimed she tried her best to help him. She even organized a baseball tournament in his honor, started an anti-suicide club. She wrote that while she couldn't save him, she'd use her experience to help others who were struggling. She even kept texting Conrad's phone these one-way messages. Like on their 1-month anniversary after his death, she wrote it was hard, but she believed he was looking down and smiling.
Yeah, so initially, Conrad's family and the police suspected his death was just a tragic suicide, especially given his history. However, something crucial was found on Conrad's phone. These disturbing text message conversations between him and Michelle. These conversations strongly suggested Michelle hadn't just encouraged him, but maybe even instigated his suicide. This discovery led the authorities to reopen the case, launch a full investigation.
And what they uncovered was chilling. Police found clear evidence of Michelle's active involvement in urging Conrad to take his own life. Beyond just general encouragement, it turned out that in the week leading up to his death, Michelle sent Conrad more than 40 texts explicitly telling him to kill himself. But there was an even more shocking detail that came out, wasn't there? From a conversation Michelle had with her friend, Samantha.
Yes, Samantha gave text to the police where Michelle confessed something extraordinary. She admitted that on the day Conrad was in his truck, trying to end his life, he actually got out.
Yeah.
He got scared, changed his mind. But Michelle, according to her own text to Samantha, told him to get back in the truck and continue. The police concluded that Michelle knew Conrad was actively dying, yet she did nothing to stop him. Didn't call for help, she just, let it happen, which led to her arrest for involuntary manslaughter.
Michelle's family, understandably, defended her. Her mother stated publicly that Michelle was kind, empathetic, that she'd tried her best to help Conrad with his depression. They believed she was innocent. But the evidence against Michelle was mounting, and the charge was serious. Involuntary manslaughter, usually that's for actions that unintentionally cause death. But here, in this groundbreaking case, the prosecution argued her words and her inaction constituted that culpable behavior. A totally novel legal approach, really.
Right. On February 5th, 2015, Michelle was formally charged. Even though she was minor, 17, her case was handled as a youthful offender. That meant the court could impose adult penalties, which really signaled how seriously the system viewed her actions, despite her age. The trial had 14 witnesses, friends of both Conrad and Michelle, gave testimony. The prosecution laid out those damning text messages and her confession to Samantha about telling Conrad to get back in the truck.
Michelle's defense argued, look, she herself was a troubled teenager. She suffered from depression, was taking medication for years. Her lawyers claim that after 2 years of Conrad constantly talking about suicide, Michelle came to believe that, well, going along with his wishes was the only way to make him happy. They essentially asserted she was just fulfilling Conrad's own desire to die.
A difficult argument to make. And on August 3, 2017, Judge Lawrence Moniz found Michelle Carter guilty of involuntary manslaughter. She was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison, but with only 15 months to actually be served, followed by 5 years of probation. The verdict was truly groundbreaking. One of the first times words alone, just text messages, led to a conviction for such a serious crime.
Her family appealed, of course. The case went all the way to the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court. But on February 6, 2019, the conviction was upheld. Her sentence was slightly reduced to 15 months in prison, same 5 years probation. She started serving her sentence February 11, 2019. Her family kept fighting, requested parole, denied. Appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court, they rejected the petition too in July 2019.
So ultimately, Michelle Carter served her time. She was released early, January 23, 2020, after about 11 months, due to good behavior. This case, it undoubtedly left a huge mark on legal precedent and how we understand digital communication. It really makes you pause and think, doesn't it, about the weight of every word, especially when someone's vulnerable.
So for you, listening, what are the enduring takeaways from this really unprecedented legal journey? This case, from its tragic start to its groundbreaking legal end, it just forces us to confront the immense, undeniable power our words have, particularly now in this digital age.
First, I think it just reiterates how critical it is to understand and address mental health challenges. Depression, eating disorders, these are serious treatable illnesses. They need empathy, genuine support, not judgment.
Absolutely. And it highlights the vital role of the people around you, friends, family, in providing that crucial support. Listening, encouraging professional help. What we say, even just in texts, can have such a profound impact on another person, especially when they're vulnerable.
And this raises a really important question, I think. If words can hold such weight, how does that change our responsibility? In every message we send, every conversation we have, every interaction, both online and off, how do we navigate this evolving landscape where our words, which used to be maybe fleeting, now leave this permanent digital footprint with potentially life-altering consequences?
We really encourage you to reflect on this powerful deep dive. Share your own thoughts. Remember, knowledge is about understanding. Exploring complex issues like this helps us all become more informed, more compassionate. We're so glad you joined us on this deep dive. Take care of yourselves and those around you.